Hope you enjoyed your program last night. Yes. And had a good breakfast? Yes. We do try to feed you while you're here. I'd like to take a quick minute before we start our class this morning to introduce our Executive Director, Ken Perry. If you'd like to take a minute to say hi.
First of all, that was very well done by Maggie. One of the things that happens within the context of our operation is that on the occasion, it's not that we're operating on the fly as much as you just sort of incorporate, right? Thank you. All I really wanted to do was just get up in front and welcome everybody to the property. I am the new Executive Director of Trinity Center, but as I just got reminded in the back of the audience, I am also a very old school boy of this property and have sort of worked with, amongst others, Judy Glick and Marty Fulton for, I think we said, let's see, Judy's been the nurse since 1990. I know that we've established that. So Judy's one of the nurses at camp and has been the camp nurse for the last 18 years, which means that Judy and I have spent a large portion of the last 18 years taking care of this class's children. And Marty Fulton just established with me that she came in 1988, the first year I was on staff as a just 19-year-old counselor. So those days are long gone and without return. But it does mean that I have a long history with this property and that I can say to you that, we are always interested in knowing both what you liked and what you did not like about your time here. One of the things that I tend to want to tell people is, if you don't tell us what didn't go well, we don't know how to fix it. And I'd like to have a chance to do it better if you came back. And B, if you do not spend time appreciating the way in which this property is integrated into its natural environment, I think you've missed the point of our property. Right? It is the great joy of being here and spending time here that we are not built on top of, we are built into, what I like about it. So I think you are a valuable part of our programming. I'm really glad that all of you are here. I know that you probably already appreciate her very much, but in front of everybody, let me say thank you to Maggie for what you guys run in this program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, this morning we have an incredible program set up for you. We have Scott+Eckert here, who is at the Duke Marine Lab, but also with the Wider Caribbean Sea Turtles Conservation Network, WIDECAST. Is an easier way of saying that. And I will leave you with Scott because he has a wonderful program for us this morning. Thanks for coming, Scott.
Thanks. Welcome, everybody. This is a big group. I brought a few things, and what I'll just suggest is maybe afterwards you guys can come up here and take some of these things if you want. Unfortunately, I didn't expect to have quite so many people here, so maybe a few short these up. Before I get started, just a real quick introduction. I've been working on turtles for a long, long, long time. I started working on turtles in the late 1980s, and so I have a long history with these animals. They're wonderful creatures, but my latest cap that I wear is the Director of Science for the Wider Caribbean Sea Turtle Conservation Network. And what WIDECAST is it's a network of folks interested in marine turtles, professionals, both professionals and non-professionals throughout the Caribbean. We have 52 country coordinators responsible for 44 nations and territories of the wider Caribbean. And so we're distributed throughout the wider Caribbean. We work all over down there. And our job is to provide technical support to people trying to restore endangered sea turtle populations in the Caribbean. And we've been very effective. We were founded in 1981 and by a UN convention in Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic. And so that's kind of what the hat I'm wearing for a lot of my work these days, to provide technical support. But I'm also a research scientist, and probably my love of turtles comes very much because they're an amazing, amazing animal to work with and study. So with no further on that, let me get started on my presentation. I will give you a little tip, and I debated about whether I was going to tell you this or not, but you're guinea pigs today a little bit for me, because I'm going to fly a new presentation actually that I haven't done before. It's a modification of one. because on Thursday, I'm going to be giving one of the barrels lectures at the Cincinnati Zoo. It's kind of a big deal. So I want you guys to have the first opportunity to run through this and see if it works, and then I'll start editing from there. So thank you for being my guinea pigs today. And if I can make the electronics work, there we go. Like I said, I've been studying sea turtles since the late the early 1980s, not late 1980s. Boy, time does go fast, doesn't it? 1980s. Most of my students weren't born. Anyway, since the early 1980s, and one of the questions that I often find myself asking when I get to this point is why did I work on this species? And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the leatherback sea turtle. And I will give you my honest opinion right up front. These are the most incredible, best animal in the ocean, bar none. And I'm not biased at all, trust me. We're trained not to be biased, right? No, this is an extraordinary, extraordinary creature. And so I often like to talk a little bit about why leatherback. And this is going to be the theme for our presentation today. One of the things about working with leatherbacks is the thrill of discovery. They're an extraordinary creature, but they were practically unknown to science when we got started on them in the early 80s. They're a creature of superlatives. So the next thing we're going to talk about is what an incredible animal they are. So we're going to talk a little bit about the discoveries we've made, the studies we've done, and then we're going to talk about what's so amazing and what has been learned over the last 25 years about this fantastic animal. They need our help. We're going to talk about their global status. We're going to talk about what's happened to these populations in the last 50 years. And then finally, we need them as well. So not only do they need our help, but we need the turtles to be around. And I'll explain to you a little bit about why that is. So let's start with the thrill of discovery. When Karen and I, my wife, who is here, started working on leatherbacks, we started in 1981 in the U.S. Virgin Islands, an island called St. Croix, and a place called Sandy Point. It's now a national wildlife refuge. In fact, under our aegis, it was the first piece of property ever purchased by the U.S. government as a national wildlife refuge specifically for sea turtles. And like so many sea turtle biologists, we started on the beach. We didn't start working with them in the water. We started where we could get easiest access to them. And the nesting beach, working with reproductive females, is that place. They're very convenient for us to get to because this is the only time we really get to get our hands on them. The only time we get to see a turtle is when they're coming up at night on tropical beaches to nest. The rest of the time they're out in the open ocean, and it's very, very hard to encounter them. So we do a tremendous amount of study now on sea turtles, and most sea turtle biologists of my colleagues have started on nesting beaches. Now, there's some advantages, as I just described. We can get access to them. It's a place where we can actually encounter the animal. I often say it's like walking up to the African savanna and scratching a rhinoceros on the nose. You can actually approach the animals, you can study them, you can observe them, you can do experiments, whatever, because you have this access. The downside of it is that these are only reproductive females. It's a little bit like aliens coming to this planet and studying humans in the maternity ward of a hospital. We get a relatively biased perspective on what humankind would look like from that study. But nonetheless, that's where the majority of our studies have occurred. Again, like I said, leatherbacks and all sea turtles are very easy to study on a nesting beach because when they come up to the beach, they're going to be there for an hour to 2 hours. Each female comes up in the dark. She'll move up to an area, usually high on the beach base, but it varies by species, exactly where they're going to put their nests. And they'll dig a nesting cavity with their hind flippers. It's a pretty amazing operation. Has anybody ever seen nesting sea turtles? Experienced that? It's really extraordinary. She's doing it all by feel. She can't see what she's doing with her hind flippers. She has to do it by feel. They have a bone structure that looks like the bones in our hands. So they're able to scoop out and throw the sand up off to the side and clear these holes out. For leatherbacks, it's the toughest because they've got baseball-sized glove flippers. In fact, it's like having a baseball glove. Can you imagine digging a hole out there with a baseball glove? Very challenging to do, but again, it takes them about 15 minutes to dig this hole. She'll lay an average of 6 to 7 nests per season. The eggs and she'll have about 65 to 85 eggs per clutch, and she'll nest every 2 to 5